Hello and welcome to the third of our sessions on Holy Habits. My name is Nicola Grieves and I'm the Children and Youth Development Officer for the Eastern Synod of the United Reformed Church. We're continuing to look at the holy habit of fellowship, and in this session I will be looking from an intergenerational perspective. To recap briefly from our previous two sessions, fellowship is loving, meeting, working and witnessing together, practical and deeply relational. Andrew Roberts raises the question in the Fellowship Book of Holy Habits. Is there a strong intergenerational fellowship between children, young people and adults of all ages? The dictionary defines intergenerational as relating to, involving or affecting several generations. Does our fellowship include all ages together? Are we giving opportunity for all age intergenerational fellowship? We all begin life as children, created in the image of God, irrespective of age. Whether 4 months, 4 years or 40 years old, we're all complete human beings. Children are born fully human with identity and purpose. The journey of childhood is part of God's plan. So instead of regarding them as becoming the adults of the future, we need to regard them as children of today, building loving relationships where everyone can encounter community, significance, security and creativity in fellowship together. Christ calls us to live in unity with one another. John Westerhoff, in his book, Will Children Have Faith?, likened the growth of faith to the rings of a tree trunk, and the innermost circle he described as experienced faith. For faith to develop, we need interaction with other people of a faith community. These interactions are the nutrients and the water that keep the tree of faith growing and developing. Opportunities for active participation in communities of faith fellowship with one another are essential for children and young people to develop a sense of belonging. Andrew Roberts writes in his Holy Habits book of his experience of a youth group that he belonged to and what was important. He said, "We were welcomed, we were loved, we were listened to. We would serve cakes that would put Mary Berry to shame. We had our hearts repaired when teenage love fell apart, and we were encouraged in our discipleship." Welcomed, loved and listened to, and not forgetting cake. When I've visited children in their church communities, I ask them the question about what they like about church. I always know that food will come up at some point. Unfortunately, I often hear, why is it the grown-ups always get the best biscuits? I encourage children when they say that to bake cakes and serve those to the adults. Using some headings from Fresh Expressions, I want to explore for a moment how fellowship is woven in so many of the opportunities we have in our churches. Loving and serving. In toddlers, dad's breakfasts, youth groups, we come alongside those attending, asking for no response. We can show love, God's love in action. We act as facilitators of God's love, enabling children and adults to experience loving and caring relationships. Offering tea and tissues for parents taking their children to school for the first time. Providing and linking in with the school through Open the Book or listening to children read, all help build relationship and encourage one another. Building relationship. In messy church, praise and play, weekends away, we give opportunities to develop through creativity, hospitality, opportunity to share stories and experience awe and wonder. We see relationships strengthen and develop. Children, young people and adults experience acceptance and belonging together. Church taking shape. In all age worship, children's and youth groups, we provide opportunity and the expectations for children and young people to fully participate in the worshipping community, not only coming together as a church family as one body, but also providing opportunity for them to encounter and explore the good news of Jesus in age-specific ways. Setting up prayer partners with different generations, encouraging those of grandparent age to pray for the local school and the children and young people's groups, and encouraging children to pray for the lunch club or the coffee mornings. They may not always meet together, but they can pray for each other. Here is just a short list of some of the many things that churches are already doing up and down the country every week, where intergenerational fellowship is enabled and grown. In toddler groups, where dads and children share breakfast together. In church groups, where toddlers are encouraged to come and praise and play along with their families and carers. Messy church, where families gather together to be creative and join together in an all-age celebration. All-age worship. In youth and children's groups, through outdoor church, in after-school clubs, and through film and games nights. The Messy Church values provide an excellent template for intergenerational fellowship. Christ-centred. Jesus is at the heart of everything we do and the way we do it. This involves encountering Christ as we plan and prepare. It means that we expect to meet Christ in the child or adult who comes through the door for the first time or who's been part of the church for years. All age. That's shorthand for being church for everybody, welcoming all ages, abilities, learning preferences, backgrounds, level of interests in God and spiritual styles. Creativity. Using creative hands-on activities to explore Bible stories, to reflect a God of creativity and give people a chance to play together. Hospitality. Being outward-facing, welcoming everybody to enjoy the hospitality and unconditional love of God. Hospitality expressed most evidently by eating together. Celebration. Celebrate who God is and what He's done, but it's also a place to celebrate each individual and family. It means noticing each person's place in God's big picture of the love and significance of every human life. It says to each person, you matter, you're loved, just as you are. Celebration involves marking significance of events within the family of the church, showing through celebrations of birthdays or weddings, or perhaps in sadder events like deaths and illnesses, making space for everyone, no matter what age, to mark what is important to them before God. It would be wrong to end without considering the times we find ourselves in currently. So much I've spoken about requires us to meet in person, but that does not mean we cannot still be sharing fellowship with children, young people and families in these challenging times. Messy Church has introduced a series of logos which help sum up the ways in which we can stay connected. We can stay in touch online. We can send out crafts in a bag. We can meet up in outdoor spaces, dog walking, nature walks, or outdoor church. But most important of all, we can stay in touch, writing letters, texts, emails or Twitter, letting the families know that you're thinking about them and holding them in your prayers. I want to share with you a resource that might be helpful when thinking about fellowship with children, young people and families. I often hear from churches, we don't have any children. That doesn't necessarily mean there aren't children around in the community or even in the church building. It's just that they're not in church on a Sunday morning. The booklet, Where Are the Children?, encourages to look and see where the children are in our communities, using a simple framework of seek, pray and serve. As we consider intergenerational fellowship, it is good for us to reflect on where are the children. I want to end with a quote from a Chinese philosopher. Go to the people, live with them, learn from them, start with what they know, build with what they have, and when the task is accomplished, the people will say, we've done this ourselves.